The gun market just went through its biggest correction in decades. Your $1,500 gun is now worth less than $500, and it's not coming back. From overproduction to changing laws, some once hyped guns have plummeted in price so fast they've left owners stunned. Let's pull the trigger on the truth behind their downfall. The Ruger 5.56 was intended to be the everyman's AR-15, dependable, affordable, and backed by Ruger's solid reputation. But the AR-15 market is unforgiving, and this model ended up facing several challenges all at once. The first was political. The election of a pro-gun president removed the fear-driven buying frenzy that had been fueling AR-15 sales. With no urgency to purchase, prices began dropping across the board. The second was market saturation. Nearly every firearms manufacturer now offers an AR-15, many with features this one lacks. Competition intensified while the Ruger stayed fairly basic. The third was legislative. State-level assault weapon bans cut off entire markets, creating uneven demand and strange regional price gaps. Meanwhile, the used market became flooded. Early generation AR-15s, including many of these, were traded in for newer, feature-rich models. Owners who bought during the panic years decided to cash out. Overall, semi-auto rifle sales fell by more than 20%, but entry-level models like this took an even bigger hit. When buyers get picky, they either go ultra-budget or skip straight to higher-end options. Today, these rifles can be found for far less than they commanded during the AR boom. Still perfectly serviceable, but the market has moved on to rifles offering more value for the money. Switching gears to shotguns, the Hudson Escort Slugger is another reminder that what looks like a bargain in a shortage can feel like a compromise later. Marketed as a tactical pump-action shotgun at a bargain price, it sold well during the panic. But here's the reality of buying a Turkish-made shotgun from a company better known for air rifles. The fit and finish are serviceable but unimpressive. The action lacks the smoothness of a Mossberg or Remington. The finish wears quickly, and the overall feel is on the cheaper side. Now that supply chains have normalized and American-made pump guns are back on shelves, interest in budget imports has dropped sharply. It's not that the Slugger is inherently unreliable, it's just that for a little more money, buyers can get something noticeably better. This is a textbook case of panic buying coming back to haunt owners. When shelves were bare, any functional shotgun seemed like a win. Now, with plenty of options available, these imports are among the first to be passed over. The original Hudson H9 is a textbook example of how quickly a firearm can go from highly sought after to nearly worthless. At launch, it generated buzz for its innovative design and bold performance claims, but the problems came fast, real problems, reliability issues, inconsistent quality control, and widely criticized customer service plagued the pistol. Within just a few years, Hudson went out of business, leaving H9 owners with hard-to-service guns and scarce parts. While the brand has since been revived under new ownership with promises of fixes, that's little comfort to those who bought the originals. Those pistols are now essentially orphaned. Questionable reliability, limited parts availability, and no guaranteed long-term support. It's a cautionary tale. Buying from a new manufacturer always carries risk. Even if a gun looks great on paper, there's no guarantee the company will be around to back it up. Unless you're willing to gamble, sticking with established makers is the safer bet. Few handguns have fallen from grace quite like the Hi-Point C9. Once the go-to for budget buyers, now a fixture in pawn shop bargain bins. The Hi-Point C9 debuted as an ultra-budget 9mm pistol with a $200 to $250 MSRP that undercut virtually every polymer-framed competitor. It drew attention from cost-conscious buyers, but never shed its reputation for heavy trigger pull, crude sights, and a bulky, unattractive profile. Early adopters paid close to full MSRP, about $180 new, $140 used in pristine condition, banking on rock-solid reliability. That promise was delivered, but it wasn't enough to overcome perceptions of low quality. As Hi-Point's lineup expanded and more refined budget options emerged, the C9 lost whatever market prestige it once had. Today, used C9s sell for as little as $40 at private sale or auction, barely more than junkyard scrap prices. What was once hailed as no-frills reliability now sits unwanted in pawn shops and police auctions, essentially worthless to anyone but the most frugal. In the 1980s, the Intratec Tech 9 looked like it had stepped straight out of a sci-fi movie, boasting a futuristic look, which allowed it to command a premium of around $500 when new. Despite its flashy design and cinematic appearance, the Tech 9 was plagued by poor manufacturing quality, with stamped sheet metal receivers and plastic furniture that often cracked and misfed. Enthusiasts once chased down early band models for exorbitant sums, convinced scarcity would make them collector's items. Instead, waves of cheap clones and parts kits flooded the market, eroding any scarcity premium. In addition, shifting legislation and enactment of assault weapon bans rendered many Tech 9 variants permanently pinned or de-magazine cut, effectively neutering the features that once made it desirable. Today, you can pick up a beaten-up Tech 9 or its AB-10 cousin at auction for as little as $245, less than half its original asking price, and barely more than a budget backyard plinker. What was once a symbol of edgy firepower is now a lump of scrap-priced metal and polymer discarded by collectors and shooters alike. When Remington introduced the R51 in 2014, it was marketed as a sleek, modernized version of their classic 1918 pocket pistol. The hype was enormous. Early previews promised a soft-shooting, concealable 9mm with a unique Peterson hesitation lock action. Collectors and concealed carry enthusiasts rushed to pre-order, with some paying well above MSRP to get one early. Unfortunately, the first production run was plagued with catastrophic reliability issues. Feed failures, out-of-battery discharges, and poor machining quality quickly became common complaints. Gun reviewers who'd praised the prototypes were forced to retract their endorsements. Remington issued a full recall, offering to replace or repair the pistols, but the damage to the R51's reputation was irreversible. By the time the Gen 2 version arrived, the market had moved on. The stigma was so strong that even functional examples couldn't fetch decent resale prices. Today, a first-generation R51, once a hot commodity, is often found languishing in used gun cases for a fraction of its original cost. The R51's collapse is a textbook example of how overpromising and under-delivering can destroy a firearms market value almost overnight. It went from being a sought-after modern classic to a cautionary tale in less than a year. The HK SL8 arrived with the pedigree of a military rifle and the price tag to match, but its civilian compromises left many shooters cold. The gun carried a price tag between $1,250 and $1,800 depending on configuration, a serious investment for a civilian rifle at the time. It was essentially a civilian legal version of the G36 assault rifle, adapted to comply with U.S. import restrictions under the 1968 Gun Control Act. To make it import compliant, HK replaced the G36's folding stock and pistol grip with a fixed thumbhole stock, modified the receiver so it could only accept single-stack 10-round magazines, and removed the integrated carry handle optics. Initially, the SL8 was marketed as a precision sporting rifle and even found a niche among target shooters and collectors. But over time, the SL8's appeal waned. The thumbhole stock and neutered magazine capacity made it awkward compared to the increasingly affordable and customizable AR-15 platform. Aftermarket parts were limited, conversions were expensive, and the rifle's ergonomics never matched its military sibling. Today, most SL8s in the U.S. sell for $1,200 to $1,300, which, adjusted for inflation, is a significant loss from its original value. A $1,500 SL8 bought in 2000 would need to sell for over $2,600 today just to break even in real terms. Instead, it's become a quirky collector's piece, respected for its build quality, but no longer the prestige rifle it once was. Back in 2015, Ruger shocked the long-range world by releasing the first-gen precision rifle at about $1,300. Before it, getting into precision rifle competition usually meant spending well over $2,000 on the custom build. The RPR offered a folding, fully adjustable stock, a free-float handguard, and sub-MOA accuracy right out of the box, all at a price the average shooter could justify. Demand was so intense that early adopters flipped them for $1,600 to $1,800 on the secondary market, but Ruger didn't sit still. Gen 2 and Gen 3 models quickly arrived with sleeker handguards, better barrels, and M-LOK compatibility. The Gen 1's chunky forend and heavier build suddenly felt outdated. As competitors like Bergara, Savage, and Tikka rolled out their own affordable chassis rifles, the used market flooded with first gens. Prices slid hard, and now you'll often see them at $750 to $850, sometimes bundled with a bipod or budget optic just to sweeten the deal. Still a capable rifle, but no longer the disruptor it once was. When Colt unveiled the LE901 modular carbine in the early 2010s, it was pitched as a revolutionary concept, a single rifle that could run both .308 Winchester and .556 NATO with a simple conversion kit. The base rifle hit the market at around $2,300, but early scarcity and Colt's brand prestige pushed resale prices into the $2,800 to $3,000 range. On paper, the LE901 was brilliant. It had a monolithic upper receiver for rigidity, ambidextrous controls, and Colt's reputation for durability. But in practice, the magic faded fast. The rifle was heavy, and the conversion kits to switch calibers were expensive, hard to find, and often backordered. Meanwhile, the AR market was exploding with lighter, more modular .308 rifles. These alternatives offered similar or better performance without the LE901's quirks and at competitive prices. As demand cooled, resale values slid hard. Today, even clean, low round count LE901s often sit unsold at $1,200 to $1,400, and sellers sometimes part them out, selling the upper and lower separately just to recover more of their investment. What started as Colt's bold modular experiment has become a niche curiosity in the used market, appreciated more for its engineering novelty than its practicality. The FN SCAR 17S entered the U.S. civilian market with an MSRP of about $2,700 and quickly became one of the most sought-after modern .308 semi-automatic rifles. Early on, limited availability and strong demand pushed resale prices to $3,500 to $4,000, especially during periods when imports were scarce. The rifle's appeal came from its military pedigree. It's the civilian version of the SCAR H used by various special operations units, along with its lightweight monolithic upper receiver, folding stock, and reputation for reliability and accuracy. However, as FN increased production and more rifles became available, the scarcity premium disappeared. At the same time, some owners began to point out drawbacks. The reciprocating charging handle could be awkward in certain shooting positions, proprietary magazines were expensive, and the recoil impulse was sharper than many competing .308 platforms. Competition in the market also intensified, and other high-end AR-10 builds offered similar or better performance, often with greater modularity and cheaper parts. As a result, resale prices dropped significantly. Today, a clean SCAR 17S typically sells for under $2,000 on the used market. While it remains a capable and respected rifle, it no longer commands the inflated prices it once did and is now one of several strong options in the modern .308 semi-auto category.